Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 28, Using Feelings as Fuel. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 28. Hope everybody's doing well. So, as I go over all of the podcast episodes I've recorded, by far the one that is listened to the most is called Feeling Your Feelings. I decided that I want to dive into this more today because it's something that I get asked a lot. People want to know more, want to have more understanding. And feelings are really, really powerful. Feelings can be leverage to moving forward towards the life that you want. They can be leveraged to get you the results that you want if you know how. And most of us don't know how. Most of us were never taught this stuff, right? And so I'm taking what I recorded in episode 5 about feeling your feelings and adding to it. So you can go listen to episode 5 if you haven't heard it yet, and it gives a lot of foundational things about feelings, and this is just going in a little bit deeper, okay? As a reminder, a feeling is a chemical release from your brain into your body. We have a thought, it creates a feeling, it sends a chemical release into our body, and we feel it. It makes sense that since we have thought patterns, we also have feeling patterns. We have thoughts that are really easy for us to access. They're in our neurological pathways. It makes sense that there's also feelings that come along when we believe those thoughts that are really, really easy for our bodies to create. They are the feelings that we live by. So I want to ask you, what are the 3 feelings that you feel most of the time? What are they? Can you name them? Also, I want to know, what feelings did you feel most of the time before you found out about your husband's infidelity? And what are the feelings that you feel post-infidelity? How different are they? I ask because I noticed that after the initial really intense time of learning the various things that I learned in my first marriage, those intense initial emotions wore off, and I sort of just settled back into the old patterns that I had before any of it. Isn't it interesting? To me, that just shows the power of our thoughts, power of emotion, that our brains find a way to go back to what's easiest to access. And for me, I have some patterns and some thinking patterns, some feeling patterns that are really easy for my brain. You do too. So I want to talk about various kinds of emotions. Okay, you've heard me talk about positive and negative emotions. But just because it might be considered a negative emotion does not mean that it can't be useful. So how can it be useful? If you feel fear, for example, it might be warning you that there's something dangerous ahead. It might be useful. It might help you to run faster if there's something chasing you, if you're in an actual dangerous situation. The negative emotion of fear can also be a cue that you're about to do something really brave. It can let you know that you're onto something, that you're moving in the right direction. Now, what feelings are the fuel for where we go. So if you think of a car, what we put into the gas tank is the fuel. Okay? It's what gives us the power, moves us forward to wherever we're going, whether we actually want to go there or not. Feelings can also be in the driver's seat and even dictating the GPS where you're going, plugging in the destination. Now, just because we feel it does not mean that it's creating a result. Isn't that interesting? I'm going to tell you why. It's only when we obey the feeling that it creates a result. We think a thought, we feel a feeling, we listen to that feeling, we obey it. It shows up in actions that we're taking, things we're doing, not doing. And then the actions that we take create a result. For example, we can be a person that feels anger and still have a result that we like, even if that emotion felt negative in the moment. How does that work? It's only when we react, avoid, or resist that feeling is driving the action. Okay? So let's say that you feel mad about something. You might have the thought, they shouldn't have done that. And you feel mad. Because you believe you should feel mad, you send a scathing text to the person you're having thoughts about. You tell your friends and your sister why you're mad, and you build a case for yourself of why you're right and they're wrong. In the end, the result that you create is that you behave in a way that doesn't actually line up with who you want to be, and you've built a stronger case against that person in question. Nothing here is actually solved, okay? It's not resolved, it's not solved. That same emotion could be there, and the person could just allow it, notice it, feel it in their body. Decide if it's a useful emotion to get the result they want. It could be that a different emotion might actually be more useful here. Maybe something like curiosity or even disappointment. Like, I'm disappointed that this person said that. I wonder if disappointment were the feeling, what actions would come from that? But in the moment, allowing yourself to just sit with the emotion and process it is how you will determine what step to take next. You're not avoiding, you're not resisting, you're not reacting, you're simply allowing it to be there, allowing yourself to be a person that sometimes feels mad. And then once you have allowed it and let it work through you and processed it, you get to decide how to respond, okay? I'm going to give you an example of when a negative emotion was very useful for one of my clients. From her best, wisest self, she decided that it would be the best thing for everyone involved to end her marriage. It was a decision she did not take lightly, but that she determined would be the best thing. So she moved forward in getting a divorce. Now, throughout the divorce, she held on to the thought, this divorce needs to get finalized. And every time she would try to think of like nice things about their marriage or things that were happy, it did not serve her well. It actually got her confused and going, wait, if we had good times, then what am I doing? Why am I getting divorced? When she had already made the decision from her very best self, from the very wisest part of her brain, that it would be the best thing. So what she decided to do was to use as fuel a feeling of frustration, a feeling of determination, a feeling of sadness, a feeling of kind of even annoyance, like it's time to get out. I don't want to be married to this person anymore. And it worked. It helped her to take the actions she needed to take that would ultimately get the result she wanted, which was an ended marriage. 1 week after the divorce finalized, she realized that emotion helped her to take the actions to get the result, and now she was willing to allow other emotions. She was willing to look at other results. And so she decided to look at the pictures in her phone of happier times together and allow herself to feel grief. And she decided that that was a good thing to feel on purpose to help get her to the result of really feeling free to completely move forward with her life. So that's an example of how a negative emotion can actually really work well to get you the result that you want. She did it on purpose. What about positive emotions? Are positive emotions all useful? Are they all good? It depends. It depends on what you want to do, what results that you want, and if that emotion is helping you to get that result. Which takes me to the next thing I want to talk about, which is a concept called indulgent emotions. What's an indulgent emotion? Well, these are emotions that pretend to be useful, but they rarely are. They are easy to come by. They are super easy for our brains to create. They don't get us into problem solving. They don't get us moving. They keep us going round and round and repeating patterns. For me personally, one of my go-to indulgent emotions is overwhelm. My brain loves overwhelm. It goes there as often as possible, as often as I allow it. I've had lots of practice knowing what this feels like in my body. I've also had lots of practice knowing that it never is useful, ever. Feeling overwhelmed never creates the result that I want, ever. Never. But why would my brain go there if it's not useful? My brain goes there because it's easy. When I'm in overwhelm, I'm not in problem-solving mode. I'm not using the wiser part of my brain to look at solutions. It's the easier option. It's an out. It's a way to give responsibility to other people rather than taking it on myself and feeling the discomfort of that. So what are some other indulgent emotions? I'll tell you some of them and how I spot them. One of them, it's huge, indecision. Indecision, it's such an indulgent emotion, and it makes sense, right? We stay in indecision and it pretends to be so useful. Like, I have to get this right. I cannot make a mistake here. And round we go, rehashing and going through the same scenarios over and over and getting ourselves more and more frustrated and more indecisive, right? It's an indulgent emotion because it's robbing you from actually taking action that would get you a different result, that would actually help you to move forward. It's keeping you stuck. It's not keeping you moving anywhere. It's indulgent because it's not giving you the opportunity to lean into the discomfort of making a decision and taking action on that and feeling that discomfort. It's pretending to be useful because it's keeping you safe from negative emotion in other forms. Even though indecision feels uncomfortable, there's other emotions that you're hiding from. What are they? A good way to find out is to ask yourself, okay, if I made a decision about this thing that I'm in indecision about, what would I have to feel next? That's your clue. Whatever your answer is the emotion that you might be hiding from. You're indulging in indecision to not feel that next layer of emotion. Another indulgent emotion is doubt. If we can stay in doubt, it's pretty similar to indecision. If we stay in doubt, then we don't have to make a decision and feel something else. Same with worry. Worry really pretends to be useful. If I just think of every possible scenario of anything that could happen, then I won't miss anything and I'll be able to make sure nobody gets hurt. Well, guess what? We don't have that much control. Wish we did, right? A lot of the time, when the things that we worry about, most of the time I would say, they don't happen. Yet in the meantime, we're making a whole lot of misery for ourselves, and it's keeping us from actually taking action that would change things. So for example, let's say you're really worried about money, okay? Really worried that we won't have enough to pay for ... okay? Worry pretends to be useful. Like, oh, if I just think about this all night long and complain to my husband about how we don't have enough money, then surely a solution will come. Well, what that's robbing you of is actually finding the solution. It's robbing you of actually digging in deep and looking for things that you can do, things that are in your control, okay? Another one that's really sneaky is comfort. The emotion of comfort. We all like to be comforted, right? We all like to feel comfort, but here's where it becomes an indulgent emotion. Self-care is all the rage right now. Self-care, you got to take care of yourself. I am all for taking care of yourself, but sometimes self-care can actually be something that is keeping us from doing the thing we actually want. So for example, if what we really want is to go out and make new friends. Let's say you want to make a new friend. It can feel really scary and vulnerable because you might get rejected. You might not get invited to that thing that the friends are doing, right? And so you might lie to yourself and say, no, I just want to stay home and read and take care of myself. That's what I really want. When what you really want is a friend, but you don't want to feel the discomfort of rejection, of feeling vulnerable, and so you pretend like comfort is the thing that you actually want. Another idea would be around like changing a job. You might want to stay in that job because it feels, I'm just comfortable here. I'm just comfortable. And that's just fine. But tell yourself the truth. Is there something that you want more than comfort? And what negative emotion would you have to feel to have it? It's the same with marriage. Sometimes we stay in marriages and don't change things up. And by change things up, I mean being willing to rock the boat by having difficult discussions because it feels more comfortable not to. Even if deep down we're not real comfortable and we know there's a lot of things that we're just dismissing, sweeping under the rug, we're calling it just keeping it comfortable. And it's actually not in service of what you really want, which is something different than that. Like, what do you want? Your answer to that is going to be different than mine. But I know for a lot of my clients, what they really want is to see and to be seen. And if we're hiding behind the feeling of comfort, we're not allowing ourselves to feel something else. Another indulgent emotion is busy. I'm just busy. Now, you might think that that's a circumstance, right? I'm just busy. You should see my calendar. Busy is actually an emotion. It's a thought and it's an emotion. I'm just busy. What does it feel like to think that you're busy? Overworking. It might feel like you're overdoing it. You might feel burned out. Why do we keep ourselves busy? Often it's because we don't want to feel the alternative. We don't want to slow down long enough to take a look at what we are without being busy. Who am I without taking care of everybody and doing all the things, keeping everybody happy and healthy? Who am I without that? Who am I if I'm not always booked, doing something constantly? Some of us are afraid of time where there's nothing scheduled because of what we might have to feel in those moments, what we might have to process. So how do we actually use emotions as fuel to get the results we want? So at the beginning of this, I asked you to think of 3 emotions you feel the most, okay? How are those emotions serving you? Are they? Where do they take you? Like if you were, let's say that one of the emotions you feel a lot is like a low grade, kind of bummed. It's just kind of there. Like I'm just down, like just kind of bummed. When you hop on that train of feeling kind of bummed, where does it take you? Where do you end up? Does it help you to take action to like change that result? Does it help you show up in conversations more truthfully and honestly? Does it lead you to get curious about yourself? If it doesn't, it's probably not useful. It's probably not serving you well. Now, I understand that many people, maybe many of my listeners might have anxiety, depression. When I was really in the thick of everything, I struggled a lot with anxiety and even some depression. So I understand it. I don't have any judgment here against like being on medication or things like that. I had periods of time where I was on medication to help me. But let's say that 50% of your brain that's creating the depression, anxiety can be helped with medication. And then there's the other 50% that is all about the way that you think. If you could manage that 50%, would it be worth it to you? That's where those questions come in of going, where is this taking me? Where does this lead me? Here's an example. If you often kind of just have this low grade feeling of distrust of your spouse in particular, it probably leads you to constantly looking for evidence of why you can't trust him. And then it feeds the story that you should feel untrusting. You're giving your brain evidence. You will continue to create more of the same. Now, if there really are things to see and it's in your best judgment not to trust, I wonder if there's an emotion that could help you see that even more clearly, that would give you more information. I wonder if, for example, like determination could be more helpful. Determined to get to the truth of the matter, knowing you will deal with it when you have it, rather than feeling down or rather than feeling untrusting. So as I was preparing this podcast episode, I remembered something. I remembered a time when I was still married and things were unraveling pretty quick. And I remember one particular day, I found a whole bunch of evidence for many, many months of deceit. There's evidence that filled in some gaps for me of some things that I had been told. And of course, I had an initial reaction of feeling like sad and mad and all of those things, right? Of course I did. But I remember getting clear with myself of what needed to happen. What did I need to do with this information? Of course, my instinct was to go chew them out and be like, be mad, be hurt, like all of those things. But I remember having this thought that I needed to use these things as data, that I needed to go and talk to him with the information that I already knew and watch what he did when I asked him questions. Collect data, see how he answers when I knew the answer. Get information. And so I was able to get myself in a pretty neutral place. like just pretty calm and neutral, and just asked a ton of questions and used the answers that I got as data of how to proceed. Going in, guns blazing, mad, accusing, it would not have gotten me that information. I would not have been in that position where I could watch, where I could learn, where I could gather those data points and decide what to do next. So, even if there are things that you maybe shouldn't be trusting quite yet, check your emotion when you go into it. Is it serving you? Is it helping you show up in a way that will really benefit you and get you the result that you ultimately want? So another example is a thought like, I should forgive him. What does that feel like in your body? What does I should forgive him or any should feel like? Probably not great, right? Maybe even a little bit resentful. Like, why should I? Why should I forgive him? I don't like being told I have to. How does that feel different from I want to forgive him? I want to. How does that feel different? What else could you feel? So how do you go about getting really intentional about what to feel? I'll tell you. It's called the intentional thought model. Begin with the end in mind. What do you want the result to be? The ultimate result. Go backwards. Get out a piece of paper, right? In the very end, the result. This is the result I want. Remember, the result always has to be your result. I want to feel at peace in my marriage, or I want to feel at peace, period. Back that up. Action. What do I need to do to feel peace? I need to decide. I need to decide what I'm doing. I need to get more answers and then decide. You can fill that in based on where you are. What would I need to feel to go ask those questions? What would I need to feel to make a decision? Back that up. What would I need to be thinking to feel that? Play around with it. Try on thoughts. Try on feelings. Play around with them. Imagine you have a silver platter in front of you with tons of different feelings that you get to just sample. You get to try them on. You can play with it. What thoughts will create the emotion that will drive the action that will create the ultimate result that I want? Emotions are really, really powerful. Emotions are how we experience life. I know that we tend to think that it's the circumstances that are determining the kind of life we're having, but it's not true. It's our thoughts about our circumstances and the feelings that come from the thoughts. That's what creates our experience, because you can put 5 different people in the room with the same circumstance and they would be having a different experience with it. You are creating your own. You get to create a different one. You get to create whatever you want. Really owning your feelings puts you in the driver's seat of reminding yourself that you have so much power, that you don't have to just be a victim to anything. You don't have to be a victim to your circumstances or to the thought of the day. Well, I guess today I'm going to feel this way. Guess we're doing this today. You get to decide. You get to choose. They're so powerful. So what do you want your fuel to be? What results do you want? I challenge you to be really honest with yourself about what your current feelings are most of the time, and play around with some feelings you would like to feel instead. What would you like to feel? What would serve you well? What do you think? You can just guess. You don't have to get it perfect. Just guess. Guess, what would I need to be thinking to feel that? Go practice it, okay? I hope this is helpful. Thank you so much for being here. If you feel so inclined, I'd love it if you would go leave a review. They're very, very helpful in getting word out. So thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.